Hey everyone, it's Jessica Michaels here with another layout for you for the Shimmerz Paints design team. So I'm going to start my layout out today with some clear gesso on some white cardstock, and I'm just using my spatula to apply this. I do use a little palette knife to get it out of the pot because my spatula is a little bit too big to fit directly into that pot, and then I just scrape off the excess whenever I'm done applying. And I just apply I would say a generous layer, but it doesn't have to be super thick. And then you let that dry, and then here I'm just kind of going to town. So I do spritz it down with water first, and then I go in with a couple colors here, starting out with the Vibes in Arti-Choked and a Coloringz in Mama Sings the Blues. And I just love that deep blue color. I think it's so gorgeous. And I'm just kind of tilting my paper each way, adding a little bit of water just to get a little bit more movement. And that's kind of what that gesso does, is it really preps your paper and makes it be able to hold up to all of these heavy wet mediums on here. And I'm just dabbing up the pools as I go and along the outsides because I want the outsides to be a little bit softer. And then I really like how this is looking, but I just wanted to break up those two colors by adding some splatters in, I think I added splatters in the same colors actually. And I kind of added a little bit of multi-tone to it by adding some other greens in Beach Glass Vibes and Seize the Day. So I got a little bit more color variation with two colors of each of the blue and the green versus just using one. And I just kind of mixed them together as I was moving around that mixed media. I've also added in some white splatters. I did wait until my mixed media portion was dry, and all I did with that was just take some white gesso and applied it right directly to my glass mat in a little drop, and then added a little bit of water to it with my paintbrush, and then just flicked it on to add some white splatters. So that's super easy, but it does break up your mixed media and just gives it a nice effect. Then I've got my photo here that I'm using today. This is just a photo of our crew here on Christmas when we do our kids' Christmas with our families, with my brother and my sister and all their family. And I have a black and white photo here today because I really like using black and white photos whenever I'm adding a lot of color to my layout. And I wanted these little squares to kind of look like stacked presents. So all I'm doing here is I took some pattern papers from a small paper pad from my stash. I think it was like Holly Jolly something or other, probably by Simple Stories. And I just cut them into 3" by 3.5" squares. And then I'm just distressing the edges, and I'm just going to stack them here so it just kind of looks like stacked presents. I'm going to add some bows and some embellishments and all the goodies to this layout, but that's really going to be my base. I just want that mixed media to just peek through around my little stacked present and just look all gorgeous and happy. And I've got a little tag here that I want to use because I want to pop my title down over here. And I want it to say Christmas Crew. So I found some letters from my stash here that I'll add in a minute. And then I'm going to add a puffy foam title that says Christmas on the top portion of that. And then I've also got a stencil here. Now this stenciling didn't really show up a whole lot. You could use texture paste instead if you have texture paste. A lot of my texture pastes are dried out because I haven't used them in a really long time, and honestly I didn't even feel like digging through the bin trying to find some. So I am just using some Distress Oxides from Tim Holtz from Ranger Collection, and I am just blending that on there in a shade of green and a shade of blue. And it didn't really show up too much, but like I said, you could use some texture paste if you wanted it to really pop, but I wasn't super concerned about it. I just wanted something really subtle, and that's what I got anyways. So I'm just going to work on stacking up all of my little presents here and just using my tape runner real quick to adhere these down. Now, you do have to be semi-careful with applying adhesives to mixed media because sometimes it doesn't like to stick. So if you're not going to do machine stitching like I just did, then I would recommend using some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive or a similar liquid adhesive on those items that you're sticking directly down to your mixed media portion so that you can make sure that they actually stay stuck down and they don't move around in your book and you have to go back later and reposition them. I've got my photo here. I've done all of my machine stitching. I just stitched some lines across the tops and bottoms of my presents there, and then I'm going to pop up my photo here with some 3D foam tape and get that stuck down on here. I did add a little tab at the top of my photo as well from a sticker book, and then here's that puffy foam title that I'm going to use that just says Christmas, and I have my other letters down now at this point that says crew, so my title is good to go. And then I'm just going to add little bits and pieces from my stash. This little sticker book here was from a Vicky Bouton collection. I have a huge bin of just December daily supplies that I keep most of my Christmas stuff in, so that's really what I'm pulling from and finding all of these little presents and all of these embellishments. So I'm just kind of stacking and layering and pulling from different collections, just adding little bits and pieces. This little star was actually just sitting on my desk here in front of me, and it was just left over. It was the last one of these little metal paper clips that I had, and I had been using them in my December daily. So that was the last little guy that I had, and I just left him sitting on my desk because I'm like, you know what, I'm going to add this somewhere along the line here quickly. So I am happy to report that I have used up that, and then I'm just adding little bits. So I just love enhancing my layouts and adding little bits and pieces and seeing what I can find in different collections, mixing things together that are like colors or a similar color family. You guys know that I love my wordy bits and little word phrases like this, and I love to stack them and stagger them. So I'm just grabbing a few of those from the sticker book and just stacking those up. And then I'm going to go in with some gold splatters. So this is one of my favorite gold products from Shimmerz. It's a color splash, so it does come in the spray bottle as well, and it's called Gold Digger, but it's just a really, really nice shade of gold, and I just love it. So that's just going to add a nice little touch of gold sparkle on my layout. And then I've got that little canvas flare that I'm adding from Scrappin Happy Studio, and then just kind of tucking things around that to see what else I can build in that little cluster on the left side of my photo, adding a couple little holly and berry stickers and die cuts in there, and a couple more presents. Of course, I found that little present on this foam sheet, and I just thought it was super cute, along with these little gold stars. I thought that would go perfect with the gold splatters, so I'm just kind of sprinkling those in and around my layout, and just really sticking to this kind of vertical form today. So I have everything kind of laid out on that vertical design, and I just wanted to add some nice balance and just add a few little speckles and goodies here and there. And then of course I'm going to add my date stamp, so I've just pulled out a little label. This one's by Pretty Little Studio, and I'm just going to stamp my date on it using some of that same Distress Oxide that I used for my stenciling, and that's the Uncharted Mariner color. I think that's actually my all-time favorite color out of the entire Distress ink collection. I just love that color. And then I'm just going to pop that right at the bottom of my layout, and it was looking a little bare and it had a lot of space on it, so instead of cutting the label, I'm just adding some additional word phrases here from Pretty Little Studio. This was from one of their Christmas kits or winter kits, and I just popped a couple little phrases down here just to fill that space in. And that's really about done for this one. I am really loving how this looks, but I just wanted to add a little bit more texture to this by popping down some thread. I just get a pretty long strand of it, and then I just kind of drop it into my hand, kind of twirling it around as I go, and then I add it to the back side of my canvas flare like this. Sometimes I'll glue down those tails so they're not like all crazy and flying all over my page, and that's really gonna do it. I did want to balance it out though, so I do add a little bit more to this right side just for sake of balance and creating that nice visual triangle. So I'm just gluing down the little tails, and then that's going to finish this one up. So here's the finished layout. I love how this one came together. If you guys have any questions for me, feel free to pop them in the comments below. If you do place an order on the Shimmerz website, be sure to use my name, Jessica, in the notes to get a free gift along with your order. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for being here and all your sweet comments. Have a great day. Bye-bye.